the last image is also from that trip, as we drove from New Orleans to Lafayette, about a 2-hour drive along the Gulf Coast. And the 4 boys in the van with me that I was driving were Harry and Luke and Nick and Maddie. As we were driving along, 15-year-olds in the back of the van, you never know what that's going to be like. But during this trip, it was Harry teaching Nick the songs from Baker Dozens that he didn't know, so that the 4 of them could sing. And they sang the whole way along that trip along the Gulf Coast, and that's a memory I'll have of this group. Maybe especially because of what we're hearing about the Gulf Coast now. The day we drove the Gulf Coast was beautiful, going along the highway and over the bayous. It was the next day when we were in Lafayette that the well caught on fire. So it's an optimistic memory and a good one that I'll have with these guys. I think the class of 2010's made a great choice to choose Harry.
So, when Mr. Delahunty told me I was going to be the class speaker, I thought, A, this wasn't something the faculty voted on. So, it's nice to hear. B, where am I going to find a top hat? And, here it is. I thought this was pretty cool. All right. And now, I'm ready. All right. So over the past week, I've been doing some research on the internet machine, and I found the majority of commencement speeches cause temporary narcolepsy. So this obviously will be no exception. Class of 2010, spread your wings and change the world. And in the words of Shakespeare's Titus Andronicus, leaneth on me whence thou art not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'd like to change gears, if I may. So what can I say about the NCCS class of 2010? And how do I describe what has happened through the years in just a few minutes? We're an interesting bunch. Some of us have been together for more than a decade, and others only a few years. But I can't really tell the difference anymore. We really are a family, but I like to think about what may happen to all of us after we leave here. Is Luke the next Wade Boggs? Will we continue to hear Lulu sing after we leave, but on the radio instead of in the halls? Wait a second, I gotta look this up. All right. Is there a future senator among us? And since there are a few of you here today, I'd like to acknowledge the members of the class who spread their wings a year early. They were a quality bunch, and it wasn't quite the same without you. As a grade, we've created a strong bond with the faculty. An extremely talented faculty, might I add, the majority of which knows how to have a good time, and when to do work, as Maddie might say. On behalf of the class, let me say that we really appreciate your enthusiasm and patience. Surprisingly enough, I didn't always feel this way. In fact, my earliest memory at country school is from Mrs. Hafner's kindergarten class. Well, everybody seemed to be pairing off into 2 groups, being the squares and the triangles. So kids around me were going to their respective parts of the room, and there I was, realizing I had no idea what I was. Clueless, so some things never change. I asked Mrs. Hafner, which group am I in? She seemed frustrated by this and just kind of looked around for a few seconds. She then smiled and said, "You're with the triangles." I was pretty sure that she made that up. And this angered me, so I, with my superior 6-year-old knowledge of all things, challenged her decision. This argument quickly ended when she simply took my hand and led me to the triangles. Defeated and unable to retaliate, I held a grudge against all my teachers until the 3rd grade, and maybe a few after that. However, now I truly appreciate both my teachers and other faculty despite being a triangle. I should also add that I have recently, after many years of reflection, chosen to forgive Mrs. Hafner for fabricating my identity as a triangle. It's just that I decided to put aside my differences with the aristocracy make nice with the Capulets, and just, let's end the comparisons there. Moving on. It's safe to say that our class has fully enjoyed the community feeling that country school has to offer, and I believe that we'll take that wherever we go. We've been told in countless assemblies that childhood is the foundation for the rest of our lives, and in our years here we have built as solid a foundation as one can ask for, and we're truly lucky to have that. As a class, we've been on several memorable trips together, most notably medieval times, a place that truly captures the dim-lit, dark, moist pit that was the Middle Ages. Several museums, most of which were way over our heads. Nantucket, where the room assignments were impeccable. And, where we met hikers with a lot of time to spare. And I do mean a lot of time to spare. And then there was Groton, Fishkill, and Nantucket. From these trips, we probably all draw our separate memories, and therefore wisdoms for life. Maybe the memory is 3 guys drinking almost 1.5 gallons of milk for breakfast. Lesson, if you're going to drink a lot of milk, learn to buy on sale. Maybe it's discovering that the top of the pole in Fishkill was higher than it looked. Lesson, if you see a pole, just don't climb it. Whatever it may be, it truly speaks to the energy and sense of family that this class shares. If you think about it, we've learned a lot more than historical facts, a little Shakespeare, and God help me, some Latin. We've learned about life at NCCS. Semper ubi sub ubi. I'm thinking now is a good time to thank our parents. I'm sure I speak for all of us when I say that, as annoying, strict, and embarrassing as they all may be, our parents have all been incredibly supportive. It's also important to realize that just like us, they have oddities of their own, which should be celebrated, not met by the classic fallback of, "You're embarrassing me." I wanted to take this opportunity to say, Mom, there she is, Mom, I quite like your leniency towards colorful language. Way to pick your battles. Okay, so we're getting to the end here. Have you noticed that I'm awesome at segues? By the way, did you know that I spell segues S-E-G-W-A-Y? The beauty of the speeches is not being graded, lucky for me. Anyway, we should all take the moment, look around at the kids you spent this last several years with, and know that wherever you go, and whatever you do, a piece of them is going with you, because we grew up together. Congratulations, class of 2010.